What's going on, everybody? Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Mohammed, and this is Heavy Metal FPL, where we bring you the means and the needs to succeed in the fantasy world. Wherever you are, whatever you might be doing, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And without further ado, let's jump straight into it. So, in the latest news, I have officially hit the wildcard button. I had to do it. I think there are a lot of factors going my way in terms of doing that. The FPL gods spoke to me, and they told me now is the time to wildcard. Stupinian was injured. That contributed to it. And then the next thing was that I kept seeing the prices rising, and I felt like I don't want to miss out on this right now. Then I just thought of like just still having Rashford and Mbuemo and Pickford in my team, and I pulled the trigger directly afterwards. So is it the correct decision? I'm not sure yet. Well, only time will tell about that. But for now, this is how my team looks like. My doubts are on Ward-Prowse and Douglas Luiz. I had to compromise a little bit in terms of getting those. They're kind of different FPL picks in terms of what you generally might look at. I mean, they're not the type of guys who just go forward so much. They play a little bit behind in their teams for Aston Villa and West Ham, but they can still get you the points. Ward-Prowse is a very good free kick taker. He's on set pieces. I believe he's also on penalties for West Ham. And there's nothing like, having a guy in your team, in your FPL team, and then he just scores a free kick all of a sudden. That must be a really, really good feeling. I want to experience that. I'm hoping to experience that soon with Ward-Prowse. Douglas Luiz is another one for Aston Villa. I mean, obviously everyone is going for Watkins right now. He's probably the best pick for Aston Villa. And there's also Diaby, who I had in my team earlier. He was in an earlier wildcard draft for me, but he's an injury doubt right now. They played yesterday in the Conference League, and he didn't play there. So he's an injury doubt. And I don't want to start off my wildcard team with a guy who could potentially be on the bench. So I'm still playing around with these two. I'm not 100% sure yet. I mean, there are other options I could opt for. There's basically Gordon for Newcastle, but he's suspended for the next game, so he won't be playing for me if I put him in my team. There's Pedro Neto for Wolves. He's a very, very good player. He's another option. And who else is there? There's Almiron. There's Almiron from Newcastle. He had a really good run last year, and now he's picking up some steam. He scored in his last two matches, so that could be good as well. That could be someone I put in my team. One thing I'm eyeing is Brighton. Right? There's no Brighton. There's no Brighton in my team currently, and that's because they have two very hard fixtures coming up. One against Man City and then against Arsenal. So not really my priority at the moment, but I do want to get either Mitoma in or Stupinian in. After those two game weeks. So that's one thing I'm eyeing down the line, is potentially how I can get those two and potentially upgrade someone like Ward-Prowse or upgrade Douglas Luiz. But the problem with that is that both these guys, looking at their fixtures right now, they look at like long-term picks. So I'll have to see. Maybe just based on their performances in the next 2 weeks, I'll see if I upgrade them to Mitoma or Stupinian or whatnot. For Stupinian, is just harder to get, to logically get into your team because there's cash, and he's just a brilliant pick, and he just looks more like a long-term pick than Douglas Luiz and Ward-Prowse. So upgrading him to Stupinian might be a bit of a hard shout, but we'll have to see how that goes. So let's have a look at the fixtures of last week. Just have a recap of game week 7. We started off with Aston Villa 6, Brighton 1. It's funny how things work out. Like, we started off this season, and like a lot of people had Watkins in their team, and then he was underperforming. He wasn't getting a lot of points, so everyone sold him because he was also a bit too expensive, so he wasn't justifying his price tag. And all of a sudden now everyone wants to get him in their team. Like, Watkins just looks like the perfect pick. I think there's just one thing to remember, before everyone starts thinking that Aston Villa or like prime Barca or whatnot. Aston Villa lost their first match of the season 5-1 against Newcastle. Sometimes these things just happen, right? I'm not saying that Watkins is a bad pick in general or that Aston Villa are bad picks, but maybe don't expect them to be like this every single week. I like, it would be normal that they just go on to winning 1-0. I think they'll win more than 50% of their matches, but you wouldn't expect these types of returns in every match or maybe every other match. At this one, basically, like they were 3-0 up at halftime, and then Brighton scored one goal, and it looked like they might have come back. I was expecting maybe a fight back over there, but then when Aston Villa scored the fourth goal, I think Brighton just crumbled there, and there was no going back from there, and they just kept scoring and scoring, and Watkins just kept returning. He just kept punishing and punishing and punishing the naysayers. So that's just one of those instances where FPL just works. FPL does what FPL does sometimes. So Watkins, very, very good pick. Diaby, injury concern right now. You could put him in your team if you're wildcarding, but it's still a risk on whether he starts or he doesn't start. It's kind of up in the air. I just didn't want to because I didn't want to take the risk of just starting off with the wildcard with someone who's injured and who could be on the bench. Cash is a good pick as well, obviously, just bombing down that right flank, like I mentioned before. There's Douglas Luiz. He plays a bit behind the attacking midfielders, but he's on set pieces and he's also on penalties. So that could be a cheaper route into Aston Villa. For someone like me, it's hard to get Watkins into my team because I'd have to compensate for him. I'd have to sacrifice a lot that's going well in my team to get him in because he's more expensive than Alvarez, and I might potentially have to downgrade Trippier to do that. But I want to see if I can make up the points for him somehow by getting into those Aston Villa assets. For me, Cash is a good one, and Diaby. Diaby, if he wasn't injured, Douglas Luiz might be my option. So next is Bournemouth 0, Arsenal 4. Arsenal just doing the works, what's expected of them basically in a match like this, just winning a routine win 4-0 over Bournemouth. Three things I want to say about this. First of all, Odegaard, I had him in my team earlier in the season, and sometimes it just makes you think if you leave your team with good picks from game week 1, then you might not have to worry about anything. Right, you'll just have that same team with the good picks, and they'll just keep getting you the points, and you don't have to keep maneuvering every single week trying to find whoever is the good pick. Just leave your team as is and see how things work out. But where's the fun in that, right? It's more fun to just chase these points and just see who might predict who might do well in a certain week or whatnot. But anyways, Odegaard got a very good return here. He got 1 goal and he got 2 assists. So yeah, I replaced him with Son, so it's not much of a regret over there. Son is performing well, and I'd like to think that hopefully he'll score even more. Odegaard is the type of guy, he plays a bit more behind the others in the Arsenal attack, but a lot of stuff goes through him. But I kind of look at him as the guy, when you watch him, he's really, really good. But in terms of FPL points, even though currently he's getting a lot of points, when you look at their play, he's more of the guy who'll give you the assist before the assist sort of thing. So that's why that's one reason to opt against him, but still a very good pick, I think, based on the points that he's getting. Second thing is just Saka. Right? If you remember, before last week, he was an injury concern. We were wondering whether we should get him in or if he's going to get benched or whatnot. And one of my arguments for getting him in is that he could potentially be a good differential. And that's what happened. He started the game. There was no worry about that. He started and he got a goal. And a bunch of my mini league opponents actually sold him. So I was really hoping that he would do really, really well and just punish whoever sold him. But what happened? He won 2 other penalties. He scored his first goal, then he won 2 other penalties, and he started giving those penalties away to other players to score instead of shooting the penalty himself. He gave a penalty to Odegaard, then another penalty to Havertz. So not much consideration for us FPL managers over there. It would be great if they just treated us better. It would be great if Saka just considered the millions who were depending on him in that match. But what are you going to do? One third thing I want to mention is White. So he might be an overlooked option in the Arsenal defense. He's kind of nailed on. He's always starting. He got a goal in this match, and he's known for getting a lot of assists for Arsenal. So they might not be the most conventional type of assists, but there's still FPL points. So White scored in this one. A lot of assists that I know him for are ones where he give a 1 meter pass, for example, and then the player that he passes to shoots from 30 meters and scores from there. But an assist is an assist. And if you want to opt for something that's other than the template teams right now, he's a bit expensive on 5.5 million. But if you want to go away from the template, Trippier, Newcastle defenders, Aston Villa defenders, then White is a good shout for that. Man United 0, Crystal Palace 1. I mean, what is there to say about Man United that I haven't said before? I can make a 45-minute just ramble and just talk about how bad Man United are, but there's no point in that. The point is they lost 0-1 over here. Crystal Palace, look, Anderson is a top pick right now in FPL. We can't deny it anymore. Anderson, 4.8 million. He's the highest scoring defender in the game. How crazy is that? One thing I mentioned, like I didn't mention this earlier, but Watkins is actually like the highest pick. He's got more points than Haaland. This guy is the equivalent in defense. He's got more points than Trippier, who's in second place. He scored a stunning goal, and that goal is really, really good. He's a center back, and he plays as just center defense for Crystal Palace. And he scored a goal that reminds me of like Riquelme back in the day. Like you would not be surprised, seeing that type of goal from an attacker. Really, really good stuff from Anderson. One other thing I want to mention for Anderson is that this is the second time he's actually scored in the Premier League. It's not the first time. He's a good option if you want to opt for something different from Aston Villa. You want to get your points elsewhere. Crystal Palace have very good fixtures upcoming and short and medium term. So they're a good shout. They're a good shout. Same price, around the same price as cash. So, but yeah, if you want your team to be different from the template, then Anderson is a good shout. Crystal Palace are the type of team, you know how we say in FPL, like nowadays, there's not a lot of clean sheets. All teams are attacking. You can't really rely on a clean sheet anymore. Crystal Palace are the opposite of that. They're actually a team that, they have a solid defense. The way they play with Roy Hodgson as their manager is that when things go well for them, they score a goal and they hold on to that lead. So they're ones to look at for clean sheets. And the three options that I've mentioned over here, Guehi, Anderson, Mitchell, all defenders. I don't think you can target their midfield. Eze is injured right now. I would have put him in that list, but the fact that he's injured means it's not a good pick. And you've got these three defenders. Take your pick. Anderson seems like the best one for me right now, but if you want to spare some cash, Mitchell and Guehi are good options as well. For Man United, what's annoying as well about Man United is that they're in this crisis right now, but also when they're losing, they lose 0-1. So it's just like a timid performance where no returns come in. And also when they win, it's also like a stale, flat performance, and they'd get a 1-0 out of that. So not much even to look at from that positive side. Like even though they're underperforming, there's nothing that's coming there even with their losses. If you're adamant on Man United, Bruno is a good option. Bruno is all the play seems to be going through him. He's a bit of a ray of hope in a team which I consider to be hopeless, even though he has a very annoying face. And Man United supporters, I love you all. Newcastle doing the expected 2-0 against Burnley. Sort of expected from Newcastle. I think they're the type of team that's just good enough. They struggle against the biggest teams, but then with teams like Burnley, they can bully them. With their fixture run, that's why everyone is targeting them. It's no surprise. They can bully these teams and they can get good results against them. Their next match is against West Ham, so not really the best example of that, but afterwards it's just a long stretch of very good games. So I'll go through some options, and it's an important point to mention that just their defenders, I didn't put Trippier here because he's the most obvious one. But then there are substitutes for Trippier, and those guys are delivering, man. Those guys are delivering. In the last game, in the Champions League as well, Burn scored a goal, and also Shar scored a goal. So both of those are good options if you don't have the money for Trippier and you don't want to spend it. And another good shout is Lascelles. So he's replacing Botman while Botman is injured now, and he's only 3.9 million. So that's the cheapest bargain you can possibly ask for. If you want someone extra on the bench, that's what I've done. So like right now is just have Lascelles on my bench. 3.9 million spares me a lot of cash that I can use elsewhere while he's free. And who knows, like if they've got an easy fixture and I know for sure that he's starting, I'll just put him in second Newcastle defender. I think a big question is how much worth it. How much worth does Trippier have with his extra price? Does it justify him being 2 million extra than your Burn, than your Shar, than your Lascelles? In my opinion, yes. But if you really want to spare the cash, you could go for one of those three. For me, I really like Trippier based on last season. And we had the same dilemma last season. It's like, do you go for Trippier or not? And he ended up proving himself because he's on set pieces. He's always down that right flank giving those assists for Newcastle. And he's also a bonus point magnet. So because he's always giving these key passes and because he's on set pieces and all of that, he's always going to get you 2 or 3 bonus points every match. I think that for me kind of makes him In terms of returns, like at least 1.5 more, so it kind of justifies his price for me. In midfield, Gordon is one of the options I'm eyeing, even though he's suspended for the next match. But I like him in attack because then I don't have to worry. With Isak and Wilson, obviously they're the best picks, but they don't start all the time, and that's a problem for me. So if I want to go for someone who's more likely to start, Gordon is a good option, and he's only at 5.6 million, so he's kind of an enabler as well in that Newcastle team to try and take advantage of their upcoming good fixtures. So next is West Ham 2, Sheffield United 0. Routine win for West Ham over there, Bowen and Souček on the scorecard. One thing I'll just say about here is Kufal. A lot of people are opting for cash. Kufal is a good pick. They've got Newcastle this week, so maybe not the best fixture, but Kufal got 2 assists in the last 2 games, and he's a good shout if you want someone in defense for West Ham. As a team, they're the ones who, like normally the way West Ham play is that they defend and they hit you on the counter attack. They're a solid team, good pick. I think they're like basically second tier in terms of like the best teams in the Premier League. So you've got like, the big usual 4, 5, 6, whatever you might want to call the big guns. And these are the ones who are just under them, along with Newcastle, along with Aston Villa, and with Brighton. They're just those tier 2 teams. They're one of those tier 2 teams. They're great. They're a great shout for FPL. Bowen 7.3 million, a bit expensive, and he's like kind of in a price range of his own. There's not a lot of 7.3 million options. One good thing about having a midfielder that's expensive though is that you can easily switch him. If he's underperforming or whatnot, then you can switch him for other midfielder picks, and there's tons of those. So if you have all your money in midfield, then you can just easily replace, because there's a lot of different good midfield picks out there, and you wouldn't have to do 2 transfers to try and get to them. So rest of the game week, there's not much to dwell on for the rest of these fixtures, but I have a few notes here I want to talk about. Tottenham-Liverpool could have been a different game. It's crazy. Like Tottenham got their first win on Liverpool in such a very, very long time, so there's a lot to celebrate over there. Lots of VAR controversy. Now they're even saying that the Jota red card shouldn't have been, on TV they're saying that basically the Jota red card shouldn't have been because the first yellow card was a bit controversial. Son got taken off early, which is a bit of a doubt. Like, I mean, now you're looking at him as a potential captain in the next week, so that's one argument against him. Another thing is Liverpool, right? So they've got Jota, who's potentially now, I think he's going to be suspended lest they like remove that red card, which I doubt is going to happen. So he's suspended for the next game. And you also have Gakpo, who got injured, right? So what this tells us is that they're likely to start with the front 3 of Salah, Nunez, and Diaz and the next upcoming fixture. So at least there's no doubts about that, because I know a lot of people are eyeing Salah, obviously me being one of them, and there's also Nunez being a good option in attack if you want to opt for that. He's a high risk, high reward sort of option. Wolves Man City, we talked about that in the earlier video. There's not much to say over there. Wolves put up that shocker. Man City still without Rodri for their upcoming match against Arsenal. We'll discuss that in a bit in the upcoming preview section. Everton, yeah, we mentioned that. There is a double game week. I haven't talked about it so much because there's not much that came as a result of it. But there's not much really that you can expect over there. It's a double game week with Luton and Burnley, so you can't really expect so many points. If you had Morris in your team, then good on you. He got the 1 goal against Everton, and then against Burnley they didn't do anything. I had Kabori in my team, and he didn't amount to much in those 2 easiest fixtures, right? Easiest fixtures that you could possibly get in a game week against Everton and against Burnley, but not much of a result of that. Chelsea 2-0 against Fulham. They finally got that win. I'm not that excited about them yet until they still prove themselves more. They've got 1 easy fixture upcoming against Burnley. Could be a good one for them, but then afterwards it just gets harder and harder from there. So their fixtures are basically running out. Right, so let's have a look at game week 8 and what we can expect for this game week. I think we can have a little bit of fun with it. Try to predict these scores and see, imagine these scenarios and how they can give us points in FPL. First off, we start with Luton versus Spurs. Look, Son is an option. A lot of people, I think, Son is a captaincy option. A lot of people are getting Spurs assets in mainly for this fixture. It's the easiest one in the Premier League. The main thing going against Spurs is just that Sheffield United match where everyone got Son and Madison in, and then they both didn't do anything and they struggled in that match. My main argument for this is that Spurs might struggle against a low block team, but are Luton even that good to give them a struggle? Like, are they? You're talking about a team in Luton that haven't won. It was their first win just last week against Everton. The first match that they won in the Premier League before that was in the 1970s. So you'd like to think that Spurs, with the quality that they have, will brush this team off easily. So I'm hoping that even with a team that's just going to opt to try to defend as much as possible and to stop Spurs from scoring, they would still not be good enough to be able to do that. And even with their defensive tactics, Spurs will still run them over. I'm hoping for at least a 3-0 score for Spurs, with Madison, Son, and Udogie all giving the points. So something, 3-0 minimum, hopefully. Praying to the FPL gods here that they give me something to be happy with, because it'll make this wild card worth it, and it'll make maybe opting for Son, which is something I'm leaning towards as a shout against Holland this game week. It'll hopefully be worth it. Next is Chelsea versus Burnley. It's hard to predict this one. I mean, Chelsea, or is it finally a run of good form for them? Burnley seemed that type of team that might help in helping Chelsea to get a good run. I'm gonna say 1-0 for Chelsea over here. I'm not sure who's gonna score. Take your pick. Nicholas Jackson is back. Maybe he'll be on the score sheet. Next, Everton versus Bournemouth. Everton are really, really bad. I'm gonna predict they haven't gotten a home win in quite a while now, Everton. So there's nothing for me to suggest that they'll stop this run of form. I'm gonna say Bournemouth shock them again at home. I'm gonna say 1-0 for Bournemouth. Fulham Sheffield United, not really much for me to analyze in that match. I'm going to say 0-0. Man United Brentford. Okay, so if Man United crisis team, Brentford a team who could take advantage of them, I'm going to say that Man United's run of bad form continues. And but I'm going to predict that maybe Rashford finally does something in this match. He got an assist, I think, in the last match. They lost against Galatasaray in the Champions League. I'm going to say he scores a goal here, but I still think it's not going to be enough to beat Brentford. I think Brentford are going to shock them and beat them 2-1. Crystal Palace versus Nottingham Forest. I think 1-0 for Crystal Palace. They'll get the job done and they'll keep a clean sheet. And for those who have Anderson in their team, it'll be good news for them. Sunday, very exciting day of matches. I think that's where it's at. These are the matches you don't want to miss. A lot of good teams playing against each other. Brighton versus Liverpool, high-scoring match. Hopefully, good for us FPL players. If you've still got Mitoma in your team, it's not a bad shout for this one. But they're both looking to bounce back. Brighton just drew yesterday in the Europa League, and they had that really, really bad match against Aston Villa. They lost 6-1. They'll be looking to bounce back here in the Premier League, and Liverpool are also looking to bounce back. They're back against the ropes now as a result of that Tottenham match. They won yesterday 2-0. Salah played in the match. He didn't score. He didn't assist though. But I'm hoping that this could be a high-scoring, entertaining match. I'm expecting Brighton to put a fight back as a result of their last performance, but I think Liverpool can hang in there, and I think they'll be able to win this match. So I'm predicting 2-3. Liverpool to win this match 3-2. Hopefully Salah to be on that score sheet, get us those assists and those FPL points that we've been craving. So let's see how that goes. West Ham versus Newcastle. Two teams that West Ham are a defensive team and they like to hit on the break. Newcastle, really, really good form. They recently won 4-1 against PSG in the Battle of the Oil Barons. So there's that. Both of those two teams have good things going for them. It's very hard to predict this one. It could go any way, honestly. Maybe it could be settled by a Ward-Prowse free kick. That'll be pretty sick if that happens. But given the way both these teams play, I'm going to predict a 0-0 with this. I think both teams will just cancel each other out and it'll be a cagey affair and nothing much will happen from it. Wolves versus Aston Villa. I'm leaning on getting Pedro Neto in my team. I'm leaning more towards that now with the picks that I have. He might be exciting just to get for 2 weeks and then afterwards potentially get Mitoma in my team afterwards for the Brighton good fixtures. Hard one to predict this one. I'm going to say 1-1. Arsenal Man City, really hard one to predict because Man City are without Rodri. Arsenal, I think as a team, they're, by the way they look, it's different standards this season, right? Like last season, Arsenal kind of went above expectations with how they were performing and they did really well, but sort of no one was expecting them to do that well. This season, because we saw how good they could potentially be, now everyone's saying that they're underperforming and that they're a worse team than last season. So I don't know where to judge Arsenal right now. Against Tottenham, a match at home, you would have liked them to win that match, but they didn't. Now they've got Man City, a bogey team for them. Not a very good record at all for Arsenal. So even with Man City without Rodri, you'd expect Haaland to try to bounce back. I'm sure he'll be looking to bounce back now. He hasn't scored in his last 2 matches. You'd expect Pep to try and find a way to maneuver. And he's the best coach in Europe. That's what he does. And he finds ways to fix things. So them being without Rodri is a point of concern. But I think, I was leaning towards a draw for this match. I was going to say 1-1. But Arsenal's record against Man City is not very encouraging if you're an Arsenal supporter. They've lost so many matches against them. They can't seem to get the hang of that Man City fixture. I was saying 1-1, but because of that, I'm going to say Man City 2 and Arsenal 1. Finally, let's discuss captain options. It's a relief that we have this. It's a relief that we can finally discuss this. I think Haaland has just broken the game with the way he's been beginning of this season and also all of last season. So the fact that we can discuss options and captaincy is a big relief. It opens the game up. If he can finally not be just the go-to captain option that everyone just does every week, we can start to see some fluctuations in terms of teams' form and like just the way these FPL fixtures are going. So that's the first point. Now let's make an argument for every single one of these guys. Let's make an argument for going against them. Okay, Haaland, what's going for him is that he's Haaland. He's Haaland. He's expected to score at this point, right? He's the best player. He's the best FPL pick playing for the best team in the Premier League. What more can you say about him? He's the Viking. He's the Viking robot. He's expected to score at this point. He's kind of become machine-like in his consistency. But he's in bad form. Look, he's in bad form, but it's only been a week since he's last scored. It's not that bad, but just by his standards, he's missing those chances. I know like some matches in the Premier League, he's been missing some chances where he usually is expected to score. And Man City don't have Rodri, and he's got the hardest fixture. That being said, he's still got the most points in FPL so far out of the 3 picks. He's got 53, and Son is in second place with 51. And he plays Arsenal away. So even though they have the number of them, it's still the hardest fixture out of those 3. So maybe not the most guaranteed points for Haaland. One other thing I'll mention though is that this same fixture last season, Man City won 3-1. So you do with that information whatever you might want to do. Second thing is Salah. What might you go for against Salah? He plays against Brighton away. It's not necessarily the easiest fixture. Salah, he hasn't exploded so far in the Premier League. So in a fixture like this, maybe he might not score. Who knows? But the things going for him are really, really good. High scoring fixture. Hopefully, Liverpool, Brighton should be a really, really good one. And you could hope that the King of Egypt shines in this one. Let's see how that goes. High scoring fixture means that potentially, hopefully, he could do something and make everyone want to get him into their team as of the next game week, and hopefully me having gotten him into my team already can already benefit from the points that he's getting before everyone opts to get him in. So Son is the next one, and he's the one I'm leaning towards right now as my captaincy option. The reason is because he's in very good form. He's in very good form. He scored against Arsenal twice, and he scored in the last match against Liverpool. So he's looking really good right now, and they've got Luton away next. So good player playing for a good team with a very easy fixture on paper. My only concern with Son is that they take him off early. But they also took him off early in the Burnley match, and he was on fire in that one. He got a lot of FPL points before everyone wanted to get him in, and then he didn't score in the next match. So what are you going to do there? But Son, I think, is the option I'm leaning towards right now. But there's an argument for every single one of these guys. Holland, the proven FPL asset, the one that everyone hesitates to go against. Salah, playing in that, a proven FPL asset that's playing in a fixture that's known to be high scoring with two attacking teams. And Son, the in-form player out of the three, playing against the easiest fixture in the Premier League. Any one of these, I wouldn't fault you for going for them. And it's your opinion basically at that point. That's the info I can give you, and do with it as you may. And I wish you the best of luck. That wraps it up for this video, guys. Thank you so much for listening. I will be in Egypt as of next week, but I'm still planning to record a video for the channel. So I'm looking at topics right now. I could potentially do like a roundup. I could look at the next game week fixtures. I've got a lot of ideas for content that could be upcoming on the page. If you've got any suggestions, then make sure to hit me up in the comment section below and let me know what you might want to see in the international break coming up. It's it gets a bit boring during the international break in terms of football. I don't follow the national teams that much. The club football is way more exciting. It's a bit disjointed at international level to try and follow that. But if you got any suggestions, make sure you let me know in the comment box below. If you like what I do and you like this video, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. And I've got to bounce, and I will see you soon.